Hello there and welcome to the Fayette County Republican Party YouTube channel, and thank you for joining us for our virtual Campaign 2020 season. We understand that we voters out there have had no opportunity to get to know the candidates that will be on the June 9th primary ballot due to the COVID shelter in place, meetings being canceled, businesses locked down, and our candidates haven't had the joy and opportunity to go out and meet you. So we're bringing the candidates to you in your home. On the June 9th Republican primary ballot, there are many seats that are unopposed, so we're not focusing on those for the primary. We're focusing on those seats that have multiple candidates vying for that position so that you can place an informed vote on June the 9th. We also ask that you'll do a big favor for your friends, family, co-workers, folks you go to church with. Send them a link to the video so that they can watch these videos and be an informed voter as well. Right now, this week, we're interviewing the 5 candidates that qualified for 2 contested available seats on the Fayette County School Board. And I have sitting with me right now Marion Key, who is going to be asking for your vote on June the 9th. Marion, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
We are so glad that you're here. And I have lots of questions, lots and lots of questions. We will not be able to get to all of them, but we're going to try and get to a few. But before we do that, please introduce yourself to the voters out there. Tell them a little bit about yourself and what your plans are for running for school board.
Okay. Hello, and my name is Marion Key. I'm running for post 3 of the school board. I am a wife of 1, a mother of 2, and a grandmother of 4. My husband and I moved to Fayette County in 1980, so we've been here almost 40 years. Both of my children graduated from Fayette County schools, and now I have 2 grandchildren who are in the Fayette County schools. Both of my children have successful careers, and I'm sure that the school system had a lot to do with that. One is a school teacher, and the other one is a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army. My husband is also a retired educator and coach, and he's also retired from the Army Reserve. My background is in education. I hold an education specialist degree from Georgia State, and I have been in the classroom for over 30 years. So I have a lot of time in education. I also have experience as a school board member. I have been on there in good times and bad, when we've had good budgets and we've had bad economic times. There are times when leaders have to make tough choices, and sometimes those choices are not the most popular choices, but they have to be made so that the taxpayers get their due. I was able, with my fellow board members, at the last economic downturn, to balance the budget. We worked together and got that done. Also, I fought a long time to get a reserve fund. It's kind of like a savings account, so that when the bad times came, we would have some money. I hope that having one now is going to help us, because I think we're about to have another economic downturn and we will need those funds. My priorities are what they have always been. Being an advocate for the students and the teachers, being a wise manager of the taxpayers' funds, and to continue Fayette County as an excellent school system. The purpose of a K-12 education is to prepare the students to be productive citizens, whether they go into college or further their education, or whether they join the military or get a job. That is the purpose. The role of a board member is to be a liaison between the public and the school system, and to, again, be good managers of the school system's money or the taxpayers' money, and to hire a superintendent. The superintendent runs the day-to-day operations of the school system, and he's accountable to the school board to make this a good place for students. I have 5 actions that I would like to suggest that need to be done to keep this school system the excellent one that it is, and also to be good stewards of taxpayers' money. And they're in no particular order, and they kind of overlap each other. 1, we need a survey of our graduates so that we know once they get out into the real world, they can say, okay, I like this about the school system, I learned this. Now,
so a survey of the graduates, what does that look like? Is it a questionnaire or one-on-one?
Yeah, the alumni can tell us what we did well. Mm-hmm. I wish you had done this. I wish somebody had told me this. That's what that's for. Okay, we need an audit of budget. Now, not the yearly audit that outside does. We need to put our money where our mouth is and say, we're using this money wisely and we're using it on the programs and the personnel that we need to be using it on. We need to do a personnel audit, especially with the non-teaching people, so that we are using them in the right way and not overspending. We need a program audit. Are these the programs that the students need? Are they up to date? So that's basically what I think we need to do.
Well, Marion, you mentioned that you were a school board member previously. In fact, right. You served 20 years as a school board member.
Right.
And during your term as a school board member, let me read this, what I have here. There were 7 elementary schools, 2 middle schools built, and 2 high schools. And the Fayette County High School was completely rebuilt. But at the same time, the board closed 4 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and ended up selling a newly built middle school to Pinewood Studios that was never opened. Those are probably some of the difficult decisions that you talked about a few minutes ago.
Right.
Let's talk about the big controversy in our county from last year, now that we're on that topic, and that's the construction of a brand new Booth Middle School using eSPLOST funds to build that school. Do you have any thoughts on that?
If you will look at my Facebook page, I have a link to articles that I have written to the newspaper, letters to the editor that I've written, explaining my position on that. I think it is a complete waste of money. There are so many things I can go into, but I have said this so many times, and people can go on that page, go to that link and get the information.
But citizens were saying that, originally the eSPLOST did not include a $46 million school project. It was $10 million for renovation to Booth, and now they changed the project plan, and they...
Okay, let me talk to you about this.
Yeah.
Back in the early 2000s, Cobb County had a SPLOST, and their superintendent made a deal with Apple to put computers in the class, or to give computers to the students. And I don't remember which grade levels they were. Someone in the county sued the school system.
Because they got off the project
that
list?
Was not in their SPLOST.
Right, gotcha.
They, superintendent decided to do this, and it was not in their SPLOST. And so somebody sued the school system. The superintendent ended up leaving, and there were no computers put in.
Well, state law says that we
That's
must
right.
stick to the SPLOST list.
That's right.
Okay. The only way you can deviate from a project list that the voters voted on a referendum is to demonstrate that it's no longer feasible. The plan is no longer feasible.
And if they want to add something that's not on there, they have to go back to the voters and get permission from the voters.
So the school board was citing statistics that the school was too small now for the population. They needed a larger school. Okay, so what would you have done to address that?
I learned the hard way, you do not build a school until the students are there. It's build it and they'll come. It doesn't happen that way. And that's what happened with Rivers.
Yes.
We were going to have this big subdivision, we were going to have all these students. Never happened. That was one time I voted against building a school, and it turned out to be the right thing.
So you voted no on the Rivers School project?
I did. It was a 4-1 vote, and I stood up and said no more, and voted against that. We never had them. Booth at 1,200 is fine because it makes it a good feeder pattern into McIntosh. You have 400 students in each grade level, approximately. You know, it doesn't always work that way. And then McIntosh hosts about 1,600. So when they get up there, 4 classes of 400, you've got your 1,600. There are plenty of empty spaces in the other middle schools. Flat Rock can hold 200 or 300 more, and I don't remember exactly the numbers that the others, but every middle school has spaces.
What are your concerns with this business lockdown that we've been on? The sales tax revenue is going to be decreasing. We may not have generate that large sales tax revenue for months, a year, maybe longer. Property tax values might be affected.
Yep.
If you were on the school board today, what decision would you make about that Booth Middle School construction based on that?
If I had been on the school board, I wouldn't have voted for it to begin with.
You didn't. You voted no. Let's say you voted no, but it passed.
And you know what?
What would we do now?
If there had been other people on the school board who voted against it, it may not have passed anyway.
We understand.
Because some people will not vote against something if they're the only one that's voting against it.
Right, except Barry Marchman voted no on that.
He did.
Let's move on to another topic. Another hot topic in Fayette County in the last few months was the Textbook Adoption Committee reviewing the health textbooks and the sex ed textbooks.
Okay, I have not looked at any of them. I have heard from parents on both sides of the issue, and I think that we need to go back and look at this. We need to get input from many citizens and find out this is a hot topic. Our kids, though, are getting information from all places. When I was young, which was many, many years ago, we talked to our peers, you know, and we got all this information, and you know, some of it was right, some of it wasn't. And now students have other methods of getting it. They go online. Who knows whether what they're getting is true or not? We need to make sure, no matter what we decide, that they are getting facts, not hearsay, not this side of the issue or that side. We need to get facts to them. One of my concerns is how many of the teachers are going to want to teach some of this too.
Well, now the curriculum, when you were a school board member, the sex ed curriculum was a curriculum called Choosing the Best, which was 100% abstinence-based teaching.
Right.
The parents had some heartburn over some of the options of a new sex ed that would be teaching safe sex instead of 100% abstinence. Is going to be teaching our children how to have safe sex to avoid STDs and pregnancy. The parents were very concerned about switching from a program that worked. We have the lowest pregnancy and STD rates in the area.
Is that because of the program we have in the school, or is it because of the parents?
Well, what do you think the role of government schools would be? Should the parents be teaching their children about sex?
Yes.
Or this? Okay.
I definitely think it ought to be the parents.
Okay.
And that way they can say, this is what we believe and this is what we want you to believe. They talk about kids opting out. That is not good.
Opting out's a difficult program because that relies on the parent finding the note in that school book bag,
right,
and returning it. Otherwise, it's assumed consent if the note to opt out does not come in. Do you agree with that?
That's what happens.
Yes. Would an opt-in program be feasible? Where you have to have a note to allow the student to participate in an activity or a class?
You know what I think we ought to do? I think we ought to take the material, have the parent come to school, pick up the material, look at it. If they want their child in the class, then they can be in, or the parent can teach it at home.
That would be the opt-in solution, right? So speaking of looking at materials, holding it in your hand, Fayette County Schools provided every student a Chromebook.
Right.
Okay. Superintendent Dr. Barrow, when he first came on the job, said to me personally that because I expressed concern about using computers to teach our children. It's one thing to teach a child how to use a computer. It's another to use a computer to teach a child. And now we're moving into this digital world. And Dr. Barrow said, well, the goal is to remove that sage on the stage. In other words, remove the classroom teacher from teaching. You want to address the movement towards digital?
Well, one of the items I didn't get to in my introduction was to look at this digital learning and the pitfalls of it. Are the students learning as much when they're online? When I learn by writing it down. And when they do everything online, what is the mastery there? And one of the things we need to look at is how much they're learning, what they're learning,
retaining,
what they're retaining, what is going on.
What about the problem that some parents have expressed concerns at not knowing what their child is learning because there's no book for them to thumb through the pages to see what the content is?
That's right. And that is another concern. We need to look at that thoroughly. It does not just need to be glossed over. And I think these last few weeks have been an eye-opener for a lot of people. And
what have you heard from parents from the last few weeks?
Well, I have heard from teachers. Some of them said it worked well. You know, we were able to do what we wanted to do. And I have heard from other teachers saying that it was, the kids didn't learn anything. It was not good at all. So we need to look at it and see. I'm concerned about how much time they're spending on computers, but then everybody says, oh, you're just old-fashioned, this is the new thing. But we need to look at it. What are we actually getting out of this? Is it good for the kids to be online that often?
How important is it for the school board to take a role to, you mentioned a minute ago, surveying. What are we doing to see if these programs that we've rolled into the schools, let's say, for instance, the Common Core standards, those rolled in while you were serving on the school board. How can we measure whether those are working for our students? And how did you feel about the Common Core standards when they rolled in, and what's your viewpoint of them today?
Okay, the State Department of Education has for years and years had standards. These are the things that you need to teach. The local school then took those and decided how they were going to be taught. Part of the problem with the Common Core is how they're taught. It's not what they're teaching. Math is math is math is math.
Except they did change up the math skills a little bit, Marion, right?
Well, it was how they were teaching it.
Yes. How they were teaching multiplication with charts that were the size of half a football field, right? That was some of the challenge that we saw.
Right. And sometimes it's not what the standards are, it's not what the curriculum is, it's how it's being taught. And we need to look at all that. The school board itself does not have jurisdiction over the curriculum. That comes from the State Department of Education. What we do, and we don't do anything with the everyday running of the school. That's the superintendent's job. Our job is to hold his feet to the fire and say, what's going on here? The board needs to hold the superintendent accountable. We're having complaints from parents. You do a survey, you do an audit, whatever you need to do. And
the school board advises the superintendent on what to do? Is that how it's set up?
They say, they sit down with the superintendent and these are the goals. And then he is supposed to carry out the goals. We do not tell him on a day-by-day basis, this is what you need to do.
He carries out your instructions,
That's
what the
right.
school board decided together.
Right.
He carries those out.
Yep.
And speaking of that, before we close, real quick, what attributes should we be looking for in our next school superintendent?
That was one of the things I thought you might ask. Okay, first of all, I think that he needs to have experience as a superintendent in a school system vaguely like ours, about the same size, same demographics. He needs to have experience as a school level administrator. He or she needs to have experience as a classroom teacher, an academic classroom teacher. Needs to have a degree from an accredited school, and this person needs to be able to walk into a classroom and say in front of all the kids to the teacher, Mr. or Mrs. whoever you are, thank you for being a teacher in our school system. Thank you for taking care of these kids. That superintendent needs to be one that is in every classroom in this county at least once a year so that he knows what's going on and that he can not just know what's going on, but can build those teachers up and let them know how much they are appreciated. And I believe even parents begin to think they appreciate teachers after they've had to teach them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Marion, thank you so much for being here with us today. Tell our viewers out there one more time how they can find out more about you and your campaign.
Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have a Facebook page. It's titled Marion Key for School Board. You can go on there and find links to the letters to the editor that I have written about different areas of concern, and be glad to hear from you and listen to questions from you. I am not a one-issue candidate. I have concerns about education, about finance, and about personnel. And I hope that you will vote for me on whenever it is. June the 9th, if we don't get changed again.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Marion. And thank you so much for joining us. Remember to share this video with everybody in Fayette County that you know. Marion is running for District 3 school board, so only those that live in that district can cast their vote for that position. And visit our website at myfayettegop.org for more information about candidates and what we do here in Fayette County with the Republican Party. Thank you for joining us.